We are in the month of February, which is love month. So of course I got my main squeeze here, my chocolate daddy, my chocolate thunder, Bryan here, and he is going to help me today. He's my special guest. Welcome, babe, to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
All right, so we got a male takeover today, but it's just only for this week and next week. All right, ladies. So we're going to get a bird's eye view of what men think about the subject that we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to give you the 5 signs that you know you and your spouse have become roommates. So what are those 5 signs after you've been married a long time? Coming up. All right, everybody, welcome back to Women Win Wednesdays. We got a male takeover today. I got my main squeeze here, and we're going to be talking about how to get out of that rut for those of us who have been married 5, 10, 15, 20 years. How do we get out of that rut? We don't want you to stay there. We're going to give you 5 signs to let you know that your spouse has become your roommate.
Right.
We don't want your spouse to be your roommate. So we're going to talk about some of the reasons why, and we're going to give you some, some tips on how to get back onto that road to romance. So that is very important. So we want to make sure that you do that. All right. So the first reason that we're just going to give you one, why you get into that rut and you become those roommates is because you become too familiar. There's a routine that happens every single day, especially for those of us that have been married for a long period of time. So we become too familiar with each other. It becomes too routine. So what are some of those things that happen? Why do you think we become so routine and it becomes so common? Why do you think that is?
Because it's easy.
Okay.
It really comes down to just being easy. You go to work for 8 hours a day. You may have kids that, you have bills, you have all of these life type things. And honestly, after a while, you just get used to a person and you find yourself becoming so familiar with them. You almost feel like, I can do this with my eyes closed.
Right.
Type, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and you forget, right?
You forget.
What are some things that guys forget?
Guys forget to date their wives. Yeah. I'm going to use me as an example. And I know for a fact it's been times where, I would take my wife for granted, not realizing it, but, you're thinking that you're, it's all about going to work and providing and doing all these things. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to dating and just courting. Yeah. Really.
And I think you can't forget that, but I do think we forget it sometimes because we're so used to coming home. So the first thing that I do 2 things when I come home. What's the first 2 things that I do?
First thing you do when you come home is you kick those shoes off in the same spot. And then you make a beeline over to your favorite spot in the living room, turn the TV on, and begin to watch TV.
Yeah. So I do that. I do that. And when he comes home, the first thing he does is he tells me I'm beautiful. He does. And then he takes a nap.
That's right.
So I'm married to Sir Sleep a Lot. I learned that from the beginning, from 20 years ago. Yep. That's what he's going to do. But what we've done is we've shaken it up sometimes. We don't do that every single day. So from time to time, what we do is we'll go to a movie. We'll go for a drive. We'll do some things that are a little bit different. But we had to learn how to do that. And it was hard because we're like, okay, I woke up one day and I was like, this guy is my roommate. How do I not see him as my roommate anymore? Right.
And it really comes down to just having fun.
Yeah.
You forget to have fun. You forget, listen, this is the woman that I married. And, even for me, I have to, as crazy as it sounds, I have to go back to the first time I saw you. I have to remember the first time I saw you.
Okay.
And that really helps me
to
remember, wait a minute, I'm married to this woman. I dated this woman. I want to have fun with her.
Yeah.
I don't want to just be a roommate like we're in college or something. Yeah. And we're both failing the same class.
Yes, the marriage class. Yeah. Because we failed. We had to repeat some classes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And why be a roommate with somebody who isn't, excelling in a class?
Right. So we passed in some of these classes. And so that is one common reason, just familiarity. You know, routine. If you have kids, you know, the first thing you do, you got to do homework, you got to cook for them, you got to bathe them. You know, what are some things that you can do on a day-to-day basis that kind of, it doesn't have to be every day, but kind of shake it up, because when you become too familiar with each other, there's things and people that try to come in and shake it up in ways that don't need to be shaken up. So we're going to talk about that too. But the first sign that couples can determine whether they have become roommates is that they're living separate lives.
Separate lives, I totally agree with that. You know, because even being married, if you have one person working at one place, you have the other person working at another place, a set of responsibilities that we don't share, jobs that we don't have in common, and you know, I think that kind of breeds that separate type, you know, where I'm thinking one thing and then you're thinking something totally different. You know what I mean? And they both have their different stressors. Throughout the day, they have different demands that are being placed on us, and you know, that can really, you know, throw a monkey wrench in operation.
That's good, because, and it's too like being strangers in the night, like especially like Bryan used to work night shift and I work day shift, so we would be strangers in the night. We would be passing each other, you know, somebody's coming in and another person's leaving out for the day, and that was what what would cause that that separate lives. And you know what too is that when you first get married, you have to learn how to become married. You have to learn how to get out of that singleness frame of mind. And another way you can live a separate life is what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. So when we first got married, that was what we did. Well, I thought what was mine was mine, what was his was mine. And so it's the mindset, right? It's
definitely a mindset. Yes.
So you got to get out of that mindset, and you know, when you get married initially. So this is just a sneak little peek for those of you who are looking to get married. If you are looking to get married, you want to bring as much together as you can, even if it's finances. Bryan and I, when we first got married, he gave up his apartment. He moved into my apartment, but I was like, listen, I still feel like it's my space. So we had to actually go in and find a whole new apartment so that we could build together. Our money was separate, and you know, starting out, so that was that singleness still breeding in our marriage. And I was like, listen, that's yours, this is mine. But there was a little separation, right?
Yeah, there was. And you know, it really took faith, really. You know what I mean? You have to have faith that this is the path that I'm going down, and because of that, what I have no longer belongs just to me. When I married this person, it became theirs. And there had to be like a joining. You know, you both had to just say, you know what, I'm committed to this. And because I am, that's when the finances and everything else becomes easy to blend.
And it's trust. It took us a while to trust each other. Like, you know, okay, is he going to mess up the money? Is he going to take up the... No, it took us a while. So we're not going to say that it's easy, but what worked for us. So this is a disclaimer, you know, whatever marriage you guys, you do what you feel is best for you. Every marriage works differently. But for us, what we needed to do to blend, to get out of that separate state of mind, was we blended our finances. So that's just one way that we became one, is that we blended our finances together, and we started paying bills outside of that one pot of money, right? And so it's not like, oh yeah, you pay the mortgage or you pay the rent and I'll pay the cake. No, we just put it all together. And of course, you know, ladies, we want our separate little, you know, shopping money and all that. So we got all that together. But really, it's the mind state.
It really is. It really is.
So number 2, the second sign to know that your spouse has become your roommate is that you forget the love language. You forget the love language. So what's my love language?
Your love language is physical touch.
My love language is physical touch. So I love to be hugged and loved and squeezed by my husband, okay? By him alone. And so every night, what happens every night?
You need your foot rubbed, your feet rubbed.
Because he forgets one sometimes.
Sometimes it's a foot rub.
So I get one foot.
A feet rub.
Yes.
Does that make any sense?
Yes. Okay. So I need that. I need to have him, you know, show me that physical, you know, touch and affirmation. from him, and his love language.
I like when you keep touching.
Oh, you like that?
Touching that muscle.
So his love language is.
You should know my love language, but I'm gonna help you
His
out.
love language. No. Acts of kindness or acts of service.
Yeah.
I had to think about it.
Yeah.
His love language is acts of service. So, you know, he likes those little acts of service, those little things that, you know, if it's, you know, maybe picking something up or bringing him something from the store, or if he's doing a film project, me just kind of popping up and just kind of, hey, you know, I'm here,
Right.
I'm bringing you something, or, you know, I'm here to support you. It's all about acts of service, letting him know that I care about him.
Yeah, and most times it's if I'm in the middle of doing something and you just jump right in.
Yeah.
You know, perfect example, just like when I was doing the dishes. You know what I mean? You just came in there. No, I wasn't even doing dishes. I was making hot dogs for homeless.
Yes.
And you came in there. I didn't ask you. You didn't say, hey, babe, do you need any help? You just came in and started wrapping these hot dogs that we were going to be giving out to the homeless population.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot to me.
Yeah, so you can't forget each other's love language and forget about the person and just discount them. So it's just really important that, you know, you just remember why you fell in love with that person. And sometimes we forget. We take each other for granted. We're like, oh, you know, they ain't going nowhere. Sometimes they do.
Yeah.
And so we want to prevent that. We don't want somebody to come and begin to show another person, show your spouse that love language that they so need. So it's important to just make sure. So that is your road to romance tip number 1.
Right.
Is just to make sure that you find out. Well, yeah, number two. If you find out what that love language is, you can get the book called 5 Love Languages, and then begin to do those things again. And sometimes it takes you doing it by faith, because things have happened in the marriage. People have been hurt feelings. They're like, I don't even want to talk to them.
Right.
You know, that happens, right?
That happens.
You're like, I don't want to talk anymore, so I'm not concerned about their love language. But if you want to keep the marriage, you want to make sure that you don't forget that love language, and figure out, you know what that love language is, and really focus on that love language.
Because it's really communicating, you know, or communication.
Yeah.
And love languages, and knowing your spouse's love language helps you to keep that line of communication going.
Right.
Because that's another thing.
Yeah.
You know,
that's number 3.
Yeah, that's number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah.
You haven't communicated.
Yeah, or you stop communicating.
Or you stop arguing. You're like, you know what? I'm not going to even argue anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
You're
Stop
like
arguing. It's like I don't even want to argue. And that's a cop out.
Yeah.
Because that means I really don't even want to communicate, because you feel like it's going to turn into an argument.
Yeah.
Most times it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to communicate. You have to talk.
You have to talk about everything. So when you stop talking, you know, roommates don't really talk to each other. Again, like we said before, strangers passing in the night. Right. You're not talking because you're hurt, right?
Yeah, you're hurt. Yeah, and you're walking around with one of those aluminum foil cones on your head. Like, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want communication.
Does not compute.
Does not compute.
I don't want to hear what you gotta say.
And it's like, no.
Right.
You have to communicate. You have to reason with one another.
Yes.
You know, you have to find out where do we get off the road.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where do we create this right?
Right.
And let's talk our way out of this right.
Yeah.
Let's help each other.
And apologize.
Right.
And I had to apologize today. You know, he was trying to tell me something and he was feeling it. You know, he was just like, I want to tell you this. And I was just like, listen, we got stuff we need to do. And I discounted him wanting to communicate with me because I just wanted to get her done. And if you have that personality, like that get her done personality, and you have somebody who you're with, because opposites attract, right? You have that person that's kind of like, you know, processing it out, and you have other people like me, type A, you know, that just want to get her done. You still have to make sure that you're like, okay, stopping and apologizing. And I had to apologize and say, you know what you were saying to me, you were trying to basically tell me how much you love me and what was going on, and what you were feeling, and I didn't catch it. So I had to say, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. I didn't catch it. I apologize. And so that is the communication. But he was trying to tell me, you know, this is how I'm feeling. I was just like, okay, you know. He's like, it's more than okay.
Yeah, right. And it really is. You know what I mean? I've had those situations where I've had to apologize. I miscommunicated, or I withheld communication.
Yes.
Which is, is not right. You can't do that to a person.
Right.
Especially when they're making an effort to talk, an effort to make things right.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn, let me be mature.
Right.
And let me, just have fun. Let me talk to her. Let me get her to laugh or something. Whatever it is, I had to do it. You know what I mean? So, and that just reminds me of the fact that it's very easy, to take that person for granted because, and that's like number 4. That's not something that we want to do. We don't want to take people for granted.
Right.
I think they're always just going to accept what we're doing.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that goes into forgiveness. I mean, it was hard for me my husband actually had to teach me how to forgive because, man, I could hold
You taught me how to forgive.
Really?
Oh,
okay.
gosh,
Well, let me tell you. Listen, I could be mad for days.
No, mad for weeks.
Yeah, this is true.
You used to be mad for a week. You can be mad for a week, no problem.
And I will still be mad. But you know what? It's about forgiveness and forgiving your spouse. Right. And some things, in that forgiveness, that other person, when they say that they forgive and they're continuing to forgive, the other person don't keep doing the same thing.
Right.
You gotta stop.
Right. That's taking that person for granted.
That's taking that person for granted, thinking they're gonna always be there.
Right.
And so.
And that adds up.
Right. And we don't want to take them for granted because what we don't want to do is allow some man or woman to come into some third party to try to be that piece of the puzzle that person feels like they're missing.
Right. Because it all wraps up in intimacy.
Yes. And that's number 5. Number 5. So that is another sign that you become a roommate, that there is
no intimacy.
And grown folks, we know that, children watching these videos, we know what that means.
Right. And we're not just talking, that kind of intimacy.
Yes. We're not talking about physical intimacy.
We're talking about being able to do a video together.
Yes.
Like, this is intimate. Look
yes,
how close
it
we're
is.
sitting to each
Yes,
other. We're
yes.
loving each other.
Yes.
This is good.
Yes. And it's about intimacy. You want to have that intimate time with your spouse. We know that life is busy. People get tired. Guys that are working, women that are working, women with children. They have, a few kids, and then, they're tired from feeling like, they're doing a bulk of the work as the mom or as the woman or school. People could be going to school or whatever. And then that intimacy, that physical intimacy is not there. So what I will tell you, you want to schedule. So that is our tip for your road to romance. I know we're going to put them down. We're going to put them at the bottom because
they're going to be in
skipping all over.
In the bottom.
Yeah, your road to romance. So your road to romance is really, you want to make time. Make time for date night. Our date night is on Tuesdays. Yes, it's in the middle of the week.
Nothing else is happening.
Nothing else is happening on that Tuesday. We are going to make time for intimacy. We're going to make time to go out on a date. We're going to make time for each other because you don't want nobody else to be trying to make time and be intimate with your spouse.
Right.
So you got to plan it.
Yeah. And it's just healthy. You know what I mean? When you can have those times, just like you schedule anything else. You schedule when you're gonna pay your taxes. You schedule when you're gonna get to work.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with putting on a calendar.
Yeah.
Especially like one of the biggest things for me is when she would tell me, "Hey, we have this coming up."
Yeah.
And then 2 days before the event come up, or the day before the event come up, she'll tell me, "Hey, remember what we have going on tomorrow?" And I look at my calendar and say, "Oh, it's not there." But that doesn't mean she didn't tell me.
Right.
I had to learn to take those events or whatever it is and put it on my calendar and say it's okay for me to schedule that.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with intimacy.
Yes.
I had to put on my calendar Tuesday, block it out.
Yeah.
There's nothing happening.
Yes.
Because life,
life
runs
happens.
a race.
Life happens. And if it's important to you, you will make time for it.
You will make time.
And you have to do it. It's like you have to schedule those times where you're getting together, you're getting together and you're getting away.
Yes.
Listen, that road to romance, if you have kids, listen, we babysat for people that listen, we need to get away.
Right.
If you need a staycation, hey, listen, not that we're going to be babysitting, so
right.
don't be texting me. No, we might for some of y'all.
Yeah, just don't drop them off at the door. Like some people, they just open the door, checking the mail, and there's a kid standing there.
Right. So schedule those times for intimacy. Say, listen, have 2 babysitters on speed dial. Listen, we're gonna be going. We want to go out of town or wherever your nearest, next city is, and just go there and just hang out and do those things.
That's right.
But listen, you have to make sure that you have that intimacy, because what it does, it just brings you back together. Okay, so that's no excuse. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
No excuse.
Right.
So I tell my husband, listen, are you fasting and praying?
Right.
Are you sick? Then we need some intimacy time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
of course you want to make sure that person, you can't be intimate if you're not together.
Right. But I also want to say too, in addition to that, intimacy, and it really ties to love languages again,
Yes.
right? So one of the intimate things that I know for a fact that I love my wife for one of those things is when I'm playing a game and I'm playing a really good game and she's just watching me play the game. Now I know some people will say, I'm not going to sit there and watch.
Yeah.
But this is one of the things that we used to do when we first got married.
Yes. Yes.
So I play a lot of video games with stories to them and everything, and I just love when she just comes down into my man cave and just say, I'm just going to watch you.
Yeah.
That's it just does something to me, you know what I mean? It takes me back to when we first got, together,
Yeah.
Intimacy.
So don't forget, we're going to put those 5 signs that your spouses maybe have become your roommate at the bottom, but we're going to also give you those roadmaps to romance, some tips as well. So again, just make sure that you're loving on your spouse, that you're...
Link the book too. We can link the book.
Yes,
the 5 love languages.
Yes, we're going to link that book, just what he said. We're going to do that. So we thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed yourself. Listen, we want to make sure that if you have any questions, you can hit us up on Women Win Wednesdays. You know my Facebook. Just hit me up on Tam Little on Facebook. And if you have any questions, you can ask us just about anything. Right. So thanks so much for joining us on Women Win Wednesdays. See you next week. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell.
That's right. Hit the bell. Hit that subscribe button. See you next week.
Bye.